Do you think you have it pretty hard in your life? Well, I ask you to consider the hard challenges and the hard decisions that the pioneers in Chapter 3 had to make when they were going across the Oregon Trail. Okay, let's get into it. Have you ever been at a crossroads and felt the weight of a tough decision on your shoulders? Imagine being part of a group of settlers and having the daunting task of charting a path across unexplored terrain. It would be akin to being at the helm of a ship in a stormy sea with no compass. Intriguing, isn't it? The settlers had two choices, California or Oregon. Each destination, like the daily decisions, has unique challenges and opportunities. It was like choosing between a Rocky Mountain climb and a trek across a sandy desert. Some pioneers decided to remain in Fort Laramie, akin to those of us who sometimes retreat when faced with daunting challenges. But retreat wasn't an option for everyone, just like it isn't for you when you're presented with a high-stakes project at work or a move to a new city. In our settlers' story, some were split on their destination. Like us, sometimes they were torn between sticking to the original plan, which was California, or veering towards a safer but unfamiliar path, which was Oregon. Interestingly, all the women leaned towards Oregon, while most men were fixated on California. And remember, this is before the gold rush. It's like when you and your partner dispute whether to invest in that risky startup or opt for the safer bonds. Nancy, however, was determined to go with her husband to California, even though she would be the only woman in the band. Now, that's what I call a leap of faith. Either choice was daunting, knowing very well the challenges that lie ahead. In the end, the settlers had to make a choice, just like we do. Their decision was based on a leap of faith into the dark, like when we take on a new role or start a new venture. We don't know what lies ahead, but we plunge in, hope for the best, and adapt as we go. Remember, every decision that you make shapes your life in one way or another. Like the settlers who had to choose between California and Oregon, your decisions might not involve crossing deserts or mountains, but they shape your life's course. Consider our settlers and take that leap of faith when facing a tough decision. You never know, you might just end up finding your own version of California. And instead of making you wait for the next video, I'm going to tell you what happened. California versus Oregon. Let's go. How did the Kelsey group decide to continue together or to split up? Well, we're just going to go ahead and read the story direct from Cecilia Holland's book. Fitzpatrick delivered his advice so forcefully that about half the settlers did as he told them, although those who did not argued and reproached. There was some division and strife among us about going, said Reverend Williams, who went to Oregon. The Kelseys especially must have been talking over the decision with a certain head. Half the four Kelsey brothers were giving up on California. Sam and Lucy Kelsey and their 5 children, and Zed Kelsey and his new wife, Ann, were all going to Oregon. So were Richard Phelan, the mountain man turned settler, and his new wife and her child, and Richard Williams and his wife and children. The families were choosing Oregon. Ben Kelsey was wild for California. That's Nancy's husband. He had planned this all his life. He thought with only a little exaggeration, and he wasn't going to give it up now. He could shoot and hunt, and he could find his way around the wilderness. He was going. Bidwell was going, and most of the other single men. And Nancy, in front of them all, she stood up and said, "Where my husband goes, I can go. I can better endure the hardships of the journey than the anxieties for an absent husband." Were these her exact words? Well, not likely. Joseph Childs was remembering them nearly 40 years later. But clearly, this was Nancy's decision. She chose to go to California. She could have gone on with her Kelsey in-laws to Oregon. Doing otherwise was unexpected enough for the rest of the company to require that she argue her case. And she made her argument on the basis of her own strength and endurance. Anywhere Ben could go, she could go, baby and all. By this time, she would have been sure of and all. By the time she chose California, she knew she was carrying another baby. But she was only 18, an age where people believe that they can do anything, that they will live forever. And nothing she had seen yet convinced her otherwise. If Joseph Childs didn't remember Nancy's words exactly, he got the spirit of her. In all, 32 people were setting out for California. Fitzpatrick had warned them. Now he shrugged and wished them well. They should send a couple of men on with the De Smet to Fort Hall. Frabe and his trappers had mentioned that Joe Walker might be at Fort Hall. With a guide like Walker, they might have a chance. So the company split up, almost exactly even, 8 wagons to Oregon, 8 to California. Nancy had made her mind up in an attitude of cool reason, but to her surprise, she found it hard to say goodbye. She and the other women had shared almost 3 months of struggle and danger and work. She had known Lucy Kelsey for years, and now she might never see any of them again. Nor would she have their help in the days to come. As the moment of parting approached, Lucy and the other women probably begged Nancy again to come with them, and the little children, catching the mood. And everyone began to cry. Everyone was crying. Nancy held Anne tight in her arms. The little girl wailed along with all the others, and they stood there, the women and the children, dripping and sobbing and swearing to see each other again sometime, somewhere. They would never forget one another, ever. And I'll confess, this makes me tear up, just remembering this. The men stood around embarrassed. They stared off at the high, cold mountain peaks excluded from this woman's right. The California-bound wagons rolled away south, then following the Bear River. Did Nancy turn in her saddle to watch the others go off to the west? To see them for as long as she could? Maybe she never looked back at all. Determining not to regret and aiming her whole attention forward, she looked toward the future. Yeah, that's what happened. And I will continue telling the story of Nancy Kelsey as she continued her journey without any other women in the party in the next video. See you next time.